All right. Good morning. Welcome to the Saturday Morning Mastermind, guys. I'm your host, Samantha Studebaker-Carl, coming at you from, where am I? I am in Ocoee, South Carolina right now, down here, because my daughter just gave birth to her second son a little bit early, so he's in the NICU over in Savannah, but we're all pulling for him, and we think he's doing really great, and we're excited to have him in the world with us. But anyway, I'm here with my good friends Catherine, Christina, Karen, Dan, and Sandy, and today we're going to be talking about Chapter 5 of The Wisdom of Sundays by Oprah Winfrey, and the topic is ego. So with that, guys, go ahead and introduce yourselves, and then we can jump out and start this discussion.
I'm Karen from the Phoenix area, the East Valley of the Sun, and it's such incredibly wonderful weather with doors open, windows open, and little breezes in the day that make it bearable even in the direct sun. So I'm glad to be here with my good friends and all of you, whoever might be joining us later on the replay and so forth.
Dan, Sister Kira, I'm actually not at home. I'm dog sitting at a friend's house. But yeah, I'm kind of like Karen is. We've just had a big cool down here, and we're back to warming up, which is normal for us this time of year. So looking forward to the heat to come on, and I'm ready for it and ready to dive in and hear what we have to share today from the book.
What's up, everybody? Christina Irvin here in Northeast Tennessee, where I have had very few hours of sleep, and these allergies are working on me. So you might see swollen and red, but we're good. Look forward to the discussion.
Hello, Sandy Root here, driving in Miami Beach. I have some good videos for acupressure points for allergies, by the way, on my Instagram channel. Check it out. Yeah, I'm driving, so I'm going to pay attention to the road, and I'll listen in, and I'll chime in if I'm at a stoplight or something.
Hi, this is Catherine Clement in Boulder, Colorado, and happy to be back here. It's snowing here, so we have the whole gambit of, we have the whole weather system between the six of us. Looking forward to this chapter. This chapter was on ego, so it should be interesting.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Sorry, guys. Lost my train of thought there. Oh, okay. Before we actually start the discussion, I forgot to mention at the beginning, for those of you who are watching, that you can join us any week that you would like to participate with us, and we'd love to have you on here. And the way that you do that is that you just look below this video, or if you're listening on SoundCloud, just look in the description, because there's going to be links down below that will take you over to our Facebook group. And once you jump in there, you just watch for the post. It comes up, and it'll let you know where to participate with us. So, or you can just go to mindsetmasterycollective.com, and that'll take you directly to the Facebook group too, just in case you find this video or audio somewhere else on the web. So, Catherine, you want to go ahead and lead out the discussion today, and then we can just kind of see where it takes us.
All right. Well, we're studying this book. If somebody has it physically, hold it up. It's The Wisdom of Sundays, Oprah Winfrey. And this particular chapter, it's kind of strange, because if you get the audio version, you get basically a one-on-one interview with her and somebody else. In this case, it was Eckhart Tolle. And some of you might be familiar with his book, The Power of Now. It's sort of a classic, and about being in the moment, being in the present. But then if you read the book, chapter 6, she it actually, there's about 5 or 6 different, quotes from people where she's asked them about this subject and just what they had to say about it. And there was some interesting, it's really interesting to have both the book and the Audible. And Christina, I know we were talking a little bit earlier before we started recording, and not everybody, like all these spiritual teachers, gurus, whatever, you just don't always jive with all of them. I connect with some of them. I don't connect with some of them. I'm like, what the hell are they talking about? Other ones, I'm like, oh yeah, that's old news. But we're all connected. So it's interesting how, as I call us fractals, we kind of express different aspects of the knowing, but then combined all together, it is the knowing, or the one, however you want to. One of the things that Oprah refers to in the Audible version is as God being the one, as all encompassing all of us. And I can't remember where I read it. I wish that, I read things and they're so, they touch me, and I don't know why I don't write them down. Well, I do know why I don't write them down, because then I've got like 12 notebooks here of shit written down, and I don't even know what half of it means, because it might like really be impactful in the moment, and then I could read it 10 minutes later and it wouldn't mean anything. Like, it's really strange, you guys. But it was saying something about, I can't even remember what book it was in now, but it was saying something about, before we enter these bodies, these physical bodies, because I think pretty much we all here on this panel at least agree that we're eternal souls. We don't understand how it works, but we're not just here for one trip. And these egos that we kind of get assigned, when we come into these bodies, each lifetime, I mean, your ego is not necessarily a bad thing. It protects you and does all kinds of things, but you get to this point where it can start causing a lot of trouble. I've certainly experienced that recently, and it's really interesting because once you do, as Eckhart Tolle said, well, as all of these people that Oprah talks about, once you step back and you recognize that the ego is flaring, or that the situation that's uncomfortable at the moment is because somebody's ego's up, or several people's egos up, or whatever, like it's all ego. And once you can recognize that, you can see where typically like there's some kind of judgment going on, and a lot of times you can see where, or at least I can see where whatever I'm judging somebody else for, like I'm doing it too, maybe not in the same way, but like in this other way. So then I can drop that really quickly. Like once you get where you can step back and see it for what it is, you can drop it really quickly. But there are people that don't, that aren't able to step back. Like they don't realize that that's not them. They don't realize that they don't have to believe their thoughts. Like, Christina, I know you, Eckhart Tolle is not one of those people that you necessarily, like one of your favorite authors or whatever. So I'd love to hear, because you have the Audible version, I'm sure. And you've heard the interview. I'd love to hear how you, did you connect with him through Oprah? Because as Samantha was saying, Oprah has a way of interviewing people where it opens it up for other people to hear sometimes.
Yeah, I think, of course, Oprah is one of my forever virtual mentors, and I do just love her interview style. She does have a way of bringing it out, but she has a way of making, y'all know I cannot stand the esotericness of this personal development, self-help world. And she has a way of making it be more real and less woo-woo. You know, let me remind you, I got one woo in me. And when we move past that one woo, then you lose me, right? So while I had heard much of the information, you know, and I even have this book that I have never been able, I have it on audio too. And I've never been able to get through the book because it's just so woo in how he presents it versus how he was presenting it with the conversation with Oprah. So yeah, I think it was her that helped me get through all that.
I almost spit my coffee, girl. I only got one woo. You know, I can get a little bit out there for people too. So I understand that. There, and believe it or not, this may shock you, there are people that are actually too woo-woo for me, believe it or not. And that even shocks me sometimes. But the interesting thing is, people that were too woo-woo for me a couple years ago are like old news now. So I don't know, like things are progressing really fast. This ego thing, like, it's an important topic because it really, you know, some people might refer to this the ego can go in so many different ways, but sometimes people take up a victim mentality. You know, you can build an ego, you can build an identity, which can cause suffering your entire life. And that's why this is important, because once you recognize that is just a persona, you know, and that you can step away from that, you can really get rid of a lot of suffering in your life. And the thing in the book that I can't remember what book I was reading or whatnot that I was referring to earlier, what it said was, we are expressions of God. And when we, quote, sign up for this lifetime where we're assigned this ego or whatnot, or build this ego, we kind of come in like, let's go experience everything that there is to experience. Let's experience every emotion. Now, we can all get to different emotions and to different experiences in different ways, right? Because you can experience joy and happiness over a multitude of different things or reasons. But we kind of come in with an all-in kind of attitude, you know, and we're going to go for all of it. And we don't really remember that. And then when we're in the midst of despair and hopelessness and those sorts of emotions, we're like, holy shit, I didn't sign up for this, but we did. Like, we really did. And if we can keep that in mind somehow in those moments of despair, and I've been there, you guys know, I've been to the moments of despair, and I've been to the years of despair. But if we can remember that, you know, this too shall pass, to keep it, you know, easy, and it will, and it does. But learning how to detach from that ego, you can't get to that point without learning how to detach from that ego and that persona. And you can't deny, I don't see how anybody can deny our eternalness, because I don't even know how we get from day to day. Like, I'm still in awe of the whole life thing, you know, like, I know you guys have heard me say, if I had to run this body, I'd have been dead within moments of my birth. And I think most of us would. So I'm in awe of life, to think that it was all just for this short little moment of non-time. I just, yeah, it blows my mind, you guys. I think as parents, I think this is a beautiful time for this. Perfect timing always, everything we read. Samantha, what you're going through with your daughter, and well, with all your kids, Greg, grandkids, all of them. You've got a situation going there that is, I worked with that for 20 years, and there's a lot of egos involved in that situation. There's doctors' egos and nurses' egos and parents' egos and grandparents' egos, and it can get interesting sometimes. Now, in your situation, you have a relatively normal situation where there's not a lot of all these other things involved, so you won't see so much of that. But being a parent, and it brings us out in the chapter too, being a parent is for some people a fulfillment, like they're raising themselves, basically. They were never raised. I guess that kind of happened to me because I was a parent so early. But we tend to, when we have these babies, that's mine. That's mine. And you become like this. I became this mama bear, like, you don't mess with my kids or my grandkids or really anybody that I love at all. But that's ego, and it's a big one. And it can be really protective, and it can be really abrasive sometimes if it feels threatened. And in situations like the NICU, and I'm long-winded today, but in situations like that, we always have to remember that little baby, even though it's just a little baby, that's still an eternal soul who has made their own choices for this life. And we don't know what those are and what they involve. And like all of us, it's a constant learning for us and for all of those around us because of what happens to us and how that affects the people around us. And so we never know what lessons are coming from what experiences and why. And the NICU was a huge learning place for me, and it is for anybody that walks through the door. And my heart is with you and your family as you traverse that it's a shocking experience for people who have never been subject to it. And although Owen is doing beautifully, and he is far beyond the danger zone, that we think of as nurses. And he's got his own little ego, and you're going to see it. You're going to see, well, you've already seen it, but you'll see more of it. And there'll be ego issues because now you're going to want to protect him because it was early, and you're going to kind of throw some excuses and some labels his way, and then he's going to fight against that, or he might give in to that. So this is a really huge time to talk about ego, because we really sculpt egos as parents and grandparents and mentors. And I'll shut up now.
I'm going to follow that. I'm going to be kind of in and out, and so I'm not always going to be right where you might think. I don't want anyone calling off and saying, "What'd you do? Did she die?" This was it. This was the end. I just have to say, Catherine, it is so wonderful to have you be able to join us in full here again and share your perspective. I saw my provider, I guess Wednesday it was, and I'm struck by how often he points out, he mentions, it's all in our perspective. And I nod my head, and I'm really big into, yeah, it's all in our perspective, and I want him to know that I grasp that larger picture. And I was thinking, do I really, or is that my ego just kind of busting out there trying to say, yeah, I get you, I get it, I got it. But my view of ego has changed a little bit recently because of Michael Rowland, who I've mentioned to you before, the author of Absolute Happiness. And I ran into him as I started to learn this little, or relearn this little information that I shared last week with Dan in particular, about how we have these different personalities, and um, we come into whatever relationship situations that we have with someone, and we're really busting out our ego, you might say, because Michael Rowland says that our ego is our stories. Well, what are our stories but our experiences of these subpersonalities who kind of get their chance to walk across the stage? I think about, oh, I do this too often, where the wonderful singer from, I think she might be from Wales, or she's from one of those edge areas around Britain that I'm not totally acquainted with, but she sang on those shows where it's, I can only follow one thread. I'm sorry. Anyway, I remember when she came out, everybody was thinking, oh yeah, right, this is going to go well. This is just going to be one more. And he asked her age, and she said 46 or 48 or something like that. Then she put her hand on her hip and she kind of wiggled, and she said, and that's just one side of me. And I think and then she went on to she's one of the most loved singers in the world. She's just, if I could just think of her name, if somebody can think of who I'm talking about, please share. Uh, anyway, you know, we 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 step out, and I wonder how often we're flirting with somebody so much younger than us, and it's our ego trying to step up to the plate and trying to make us match with whoever we're with. And what we really need to do sometimes is just remember, let's get grounded in where we're at the moment and now. And that's why we talk about now so much, is Eckhart Tolle writing The Power of Now. I think that brought the era in where we talk about being in the now and realizing I'm sitting across the desk from a man who worked himself through getting his PhD, uh, through years and years of, uh, you know, getting this part and then that part, and then working out the amount of time that he could uh, kind of utilize his credits towards getting more credits. And I'm blithering and blathering, but I'm just so glad you're back with us, Catherine, and able to share your perspective, because I along with you, can't imagine that anything about us fits just smack dab in this one little experience on Earth. It trails across so many years of developing into what we bring here that then can go on automatic, so that we're not having to breathe ourselves. I thought it so remarkable the time that you said, if I had to breathe myself, I wouldn't be alive very long. I get so distracted. And I think about that too. Even just counting, sometimes I'm trying to ground myself by counting, and I'm just amazed that by 7 I'm off somewhere else, distracted away. So that's my contribution for the moment.
I just wanted to jump out and add a little bit. Yeah, I think you kind of summed it up pretty good. That you know we do come in with a lot of what we have already in us, and it's how we learn and grow and build off of that, and going through the experiences that we go through to help us grow and realize that it's not, my ego is not necessarily any bigger or better than anybody else's, and I can learn from other people's perspectives and other people's viewpoints and stuff like that. And we all tend to get into our own selves of propping ourselves up to make ourselves, for lack of a better word, to feel better, to feel more important, to feel like we really know what we're talking about, what we're, dealing with. When in actuality, we're all still trying to learn and grow and kind of grow into the people that, for me, lack of a better word, what God has set out before us for our path and what we're supposed to follow, that there's plenty of room to, sit back and grow and let that manifest itself, and to where we can learn so much from other people and other people's perspective and their viewpoints, and allowing that in instead of just shutting it out because we feel like we're the only ones and we have the only answer, and that, you know, how dare anybody else try and tell us anything different. I think a lot of people get caught up in that because, oh, I have this, PhD behind me, or I have this doctorate behind me, or I have that, or I have that, you know, it doesn't make anything less that what Karen just shared, or what Christina shares, or what you share, or what, any of us have gone through or experienced in life. That doesn't have value either, that it's not just as important. I think we do have that importance, and that we have, um, and it's just learning how to share it in ways that people can better understand and hopefully accept it. But we have to be reciprocal too, and learn to open ourselves up to other people and allow them to share what they have to share for us, so that we can take it in and receive it to help us move forward on our path and our journey. So that's my little bit.
Everybody's covered so many things today. It's just there's a lot in this chapter. So many things, so many directions we can go with this, and this week for me, this past, well, since last Sunday. What day is today? Today Friday. Okay, it's not even been a whole week yet. I think, I don't know. I'm all messed up as far as my days go, but so my daughter gave birth on Sunday, and which was the 15th. So wherever we are after that, anyway. And when this happened, of course, she was 7 weeks early, and we're all just freaking out. I'm freaking out, and my daughter's freaking out. I mean, and for me, I hadn't even read this chapter, but of course, as soon as I opened it up today, I'm like reading along, and I'm going, yeah, this is how this kind of affected me this week, because when this happened, and at first everything seemed like it was going to be fine, and I'm like, okay, we already have plans to be down there in a few weeks. We'll just visit, when we had originally scheduled. But then I realized that, the difficulty of what she was going to be going through and struggling with all of the emotional roller coasters that go along with that. And then, and she has a 2-year-old son, and she's got, her boyfriend and work and daycare and just all these different things. And the baby has to be in NICU 40 minutes away from where they live. And it's just all these things. And for me, when all of that stuff was coming up, I was having this struggle inside of myself because, and of course it's my ego going, you need to go there now, or you shouldn't go there now, or you have all these bills you got to worry about, or you need to work. You can't just take off work with no notice. All these things going on. And I'm like, I was breaking down. It was causing me all of this pain, and that's the thing that has been my greatest realization, I guess, over, the past few years of studying all these different books and spiritual books, as well as self-help books. I mean, everything that we've gone through in the past few years has helped me. in this situation. It's like, this is the pinnacle, right? But with me, it's realizing that all this stuff that's coming up inside of me that's causing me all of this fear is from the ego. It's from all of the shoulda, coulda, ought to, blah, blah, blahs, all the lies that we tell ourselves to cause us this pain. It's what causes the pain. And when the pain comes up, that's my recognition to know, okay, this is just mumbo jumbo. I've got to get past this, all of this mumbo jumbo that's coming in, and search for the what feels like the peace inside of myself and follow that path. And that is what helped me to be able to step aside out of all that mumbo jumbo and just come down here, because I don't know how I'm going to pay my bills. I don't know how I'm going to make sure that I have enough money to be down here. And I don't know all the answers to all of those things. All I know is that when I was struggling with all of that mumbo jumbo, it was hurting. It was painful. It was causing me distress. And when I just said, okay, if all of this was not an issue, then, what would I do? And the answer was clear. I would come down here and I'd be here for my daughter, because that's the most important thing. And then after that, I'm like, all right, I got this, it's peaceful. And we just went and we're here. And, of course, now when we're down here, all little things keep popping up, these fears that I have for my daughter when she brings a baby home, and all of the things that might happen. And but I'm like, I just have to trust, like Catherine, when you were saying, he came here, he's on his own little journey. And, of course I knew that, on a deeper level, I know that. And yet on this human plane of ego and responsibilities and stuff, it's hard, because we have all these people and all of the things in our head telling us what we should do and what we shouldn't do, and why we should and why we shouldn't, and all of that. And but then when we get down into that peaceful, underneath all of the ego baloney, that then the path is clear. So I hope that was clear what I was just saying, like all over the place. So somebody else jump out.
You remind me, Samantha, of in the chapter, can you guys hear me? Yeah. Okay. You remind me of the chapter where they start talking about stress, and Eckhart Tolle says that stress is wanting something to be the way that it isn't. And then he gives the example of being stuck in the mud. And it's like, when you're stuck in the mud, you're like, damn it, I can't get this out of the mud, and now I gotta call a tow truck, I don't have the money, and now I'm mad about that, and I'm late, I'm mad about that, hell, I got mud on my new shoes, like you're just going and going, like you just keep creating this emotion, it's like a chain reaction of emotion in the circumstance, rather than just accepting, or what were you saying? Surrendering, Catherine, surrendering to the moment. And he was saying that, effective action comes when you just align yourself with accepting that, like, this is what it is right now. This is the circumstance. Like, I'm stuck in the damn mud. So now what's the next step for me to get out the mud? Do I have something to put behind the tire and some people to help me push? Do I have a phone call? Let me get on the Google and find me a tow truck, right? Like, once you just say, I am where I am, this is what it is, we have what we have, then you can take the next moment to figure out the next step. And I'll be honest with you, like, I literally have heard him like talking about that in Awakening, and I'm telling you, Catherine, but I heard it differently this time. I just heard it differently this time, and I was like, oh yeah, because what you were essentially saying, or what I got from what you were saying, Samantha, is the circumstances began to overwhelm you with the what ifs, and where am I going to, and all you needed to do was take a beat and understand, right? Going back to our previous weeks, taking a beat, taking a moment to separate and realign. And once you did that, you were like, you know what? It really doesn't matter, because no matter what, I would be there with my baby. I'm fit to be there with my baby. Like, and all the other stuff, we'll figure that out. And I'm just amazed by how many times a day, if we were honest, how many times a day do we allow ourselves the stuck in the mud mindset, the stuck in the mud presence? Now, I ain't gonna lie, I used to be stuck in the mud all the time. And it was most of the time that I think about it, it was me stuck in the mud for somebody else bringing all their ego into it. And I felt the need, because I had this whole hero control syndrome, to fix their ego moment. Well, that is not me. Like, how can I fix their moment? I don't know who they are, what all resources they're working with, or anything like that. So going back to like another book or another lesson or years ago, it's like, how can we create balance? Ego isn't always, I know Oprah, I'm going to say this and then I'm going to shut up because I've been rambling. But Oprah started the chapter off by saying that she always thought the ego was like all about, arrogance and all that kind of stuff. But it wasn't, but she's come to understand that it wasn't a matter of like showing out. It's a matter of an awareness. And when I really started to process the chapter a little bit, ego was always dealing in our perception of ourselves. I think they even said that somewhere in the chapter. It's where we're dealing with our perception of ourselves in relation to the external world, which means that we're dealing in a lot of judgment. We're dealing in a lot of doubt, guilt, shame, worry, and fear. And if you really consider that, we're dealing in a lot of space that isn't really rooted in reality of what truly is. And much of that is because we've been conditioned not to be present in that moment, in this moment. And being present in the moment requires an awareness. And if we are present in that moment, we are aware, like literally, I like it for myself. It's like if it requires an awareness, then it requires a focus for me to receive the divine voice that's literally guiding me when in my next step. I don't know about you guys, but like that's what I got out of it.
I like what you just shared, because I think you brought up a really good point, and about one, being in the present, moment and stuff. But two, I think it goes back to what as I think we've all kind of talked about in past and things like that, that we're semi-trained to go the route of and I put it in the chat, the meism. It's all about me. It's all about me. But it's really not. It's about being present in the moment and being aware and stepping back from that ego. And like you said, it's the moment is the moment. And if we can grasp that, then I think a lot of times once we realize that, like for Samantha, things became a little bit clearer. The main thing was, I need to be there for my daughter. The rest will take care of it as it comes up and works itself out. And I think a lot of us forget about that, we can't control a lot of the other things outside of us. We can help maybe try and mitigate it, or hopefully help steer it in a direction that will best suit what our needs are and what our family needs are and stuff. But we can't control every little last aspect. And that's a quality I like to try and do. I like to control every little thing, because then it suits me and makes me happy. But it may not be the best way to handle it, or be the best route that will best benefit me and those around me. So I think, it's also getting back to, like you said, being in that moment, being present, and realizing that, what is the next step logically, based on the facts of what's going on around me. Okay, like you said, I'm stuck in the mud. Do I have a rock that I can put behind the tire to help give me traction, so that way when I either get in the car and try and start it, it will help me move forward, or the people help me pushing it, or, like I said, do I go to the next step? Do I call somebody? You step outside of the emotions, I guess, and stop letting that run rampant, and let the present situation be what you focus on, and work with the solution from there. So I think you hit it pretty square on the head there. I think, getting back to just being present in that moment.
Yeah, and I don't want to like the moment to go like by here to drive home the importance of understanding control and the false illusion of it. I feel like I'm an authority in this place. I am Christina Erden, and I'm a recovering control addict. But literally, it's like that is the ultimate, like quintessential representation of ego, to suggest that you have control over anything when you don't. Like, that is not even our business. That is not even our space. God, divine, whatever divine source of energy that you believe in, like, that's what's driving this thing. And there really are too many things to go, like, the ego is thinking that literally you can control a situation that literally involves infinite amount of people with all these different thoughts and their own agendas and their own egos and their own resources and their own and their own and their own and their own and their own. Like, you can control all of that. You can come up with enough what if this, then that, to mitigate anything that's going to come. Like, if that is not ego, I do not know what ego is. But with the root of it is what's really the most important thing for me to recognize, because it's like, wait a minute, the root of it is like, like a baby. When they're crying, they either want to be changed, they're tired, they're hungry, like you do, and you give them that thing, and then they hush for a little bit, right? There's optimal ways of running this thing, though. Like, I'm trying to find like a practical, because you know how I am about the whole practical thing. But like, if we are like a car and there are practical ways where we're running at our most efficient when we're on a road trip, right? You got plenty of air in your tires. You got your oils changed and everything's lubricated. You got a full tank of gas. You got your right playlist on, right? Like, the traffic is going good. You tuck in behind somebody that's kind of going a little bit above the speed limit so you can safely do it yourself. Like, these are optimal conditions for me, right? There are optimal conditions for us to go in with this ego world too. And the thing that fuels the optimal way for us to go about our day, in the moments in our day, is to not expand our fuel on that extra stuff. So like, if I have a car and my wheels don't have enough air in them, and I haven't maintained my car well, and maybe if I don't understand how to draft like a big old truck that's going above, and I can split the air, all the, that's getting into more than necessary, but that helps me go further on that same tank of gas than if I'm like balls to the wall out by myself, windows down with a low air pressure, right? I'm not going to get as far on that same tank of gas. Ego's the same kind of way. If I'm spending all of my time in thinking I'm in control of anything, I'm literally selfishly trying to soothe my need to feel important my need to feel like the hero, my desire, right? The stress, wanting things to be something the way that they aren't. Like, I just want to be coming in and sweeping in and saving. So I'm actually wasting all of my energy and bandwidth on all of my stuff, my desires, my needs. So what is that underneath it that's driving my need for something? Because that's what we need to take a beat and align on. Make sense what I'm saying?
Absolutely, it makes sense. And I like Eckhart. You know, I can relate to Eckhart. One of the things that I find interesting about him is that, you know, he'll tell you that his awakening came from a time when he was suicidal, and he basically just got tired of himself, and he just told himself, like, I just can't live with you anymore. And then he sort of realized what he said to himself, and he's like, wait a minute, who's speaking, and who's the person that can't live with somebody? And like, that's how his awakening came about. And these moments of stress, these moments of hopelessness and despair, awaken us sometimes, you know, like it was a traumatic event that awakened me. It just knocked me completely out of my body. And he uses the word disassociation, which I find an interesting term, because that's a psychiatric term that is typically, you know, associated with a psychotic disorder, or what, you know, like a psychotic break, a disassociation. I don't use that word for what happened to me, although if you read the definition of the word, I guess it could fit, but I definitely don't use that word, because I don't think, first of all of that psycho stuff has just been written by men, like in this one little moment of nano time that we're in. And it really, maybe that's an ego issue that I have, but I don't have as much respect for some books than maybe I should have. I don't know. Like, I'm just like, well, that's just what you thought. And like, I don't believe my thoughts, and I don't think I should believe your thoughts at the moment. So maybe that's ego. I don't know. But like, if it doesn't ring true, like, I can read stuff. I know you guys do this too. I'm sure every one of you are tingling right now. Like, I can read stuff and it either reads true or it doesn't, you know, or people can talk to me and I either feel their truth or I don't, you know, and not, I mean, all of us have our moments of where we lie to ourselves and we lie to others, and, you know, we're humans, things like that. But I'm talking about this tingling, knowing connection thing with God that we have somehow that I don't understand, you know. Shit either feels real or it doesn't. And, that comes, that doesn't have anything to do with ego. You know, that doesn't have anything to do with anything that's been written by anybody since, quote, time began. You know, I mean, that is just that connection with God, spirit, creator, the one, whatever you want to call it. I don't know. But I know that there are those moments of surrender, Samantha. And I just had one yesterday, and it's really interesting how even though we're in completely different situations, like we have a lot of parallel shit happening right now. And I was just in my car yesterday, because that's where I go to escape. and I've been smoking, which you guys know, well, maybe you do or don't know. I mean, that's something I've had addiction with my whole life, but I've also gone for like over a decade without doing it, but in moments of stress, when I'm feeling like things shouldn't be like they are, I will fall back on that habit. And I was out there yesterday, and my son needed more assistance, and God help him. I mean, he's like, I don't know what's going on, but he, shit keeps happening to him, and he really needs help. Like, it's not frivolous things. It's like, surgery and shit like that. He's got to have it. It's not like you could just say no. But I mean, I could, but he needs surgery. So, and I'm thinking, like, I was just, I have so many bills of my own, and, I just changed jobs, and I'm financially out there, and who knows what's going to happen. And I'm, all those fears and things started going through my head. And then I'm like, but what's important right now in this moment, in this fucking moment? What is important? And what was important was that my son knew I loved him, and that he didn't feel alone in what he was going through. And I think that's right where you were, Samantha, in a completely different set of situation, but, or circumstances. Sometimes, even though we're never alone, guys, we're just never, ever, ever alone. And if you heard all the voices that I hear, you'd understand that. But, but sometimes we feel so alone, and we feel hopeless, and I've been there, and that's a horrible place to be. And if you get put in the situation, I don't want to be a hero. I don't want to be a fucking hero. I have people contact me all the time expecting me to solve their problems. And I'm like, I'm not your problem solver. Like, everybody has divine connection. Everybody has everything that I'm not special. Everybody has everything that I have. We just do things in different ways, and we've had different experiences. But I can't solve your shit. Like, everybody's got to solve their own shit, But having said that, when you're put in that moment where somebody is at that point of hopelessness, and you're the one that God puts there in that moment to be there for them, be the hero. Take a step of faith, surrender, because that's what I had to do. I had to just surrender, and I had to say, okay, Catherine, seriously, you're 54. You couldn't have lived more than a minute on your own, and you're still here. And yeah, you've gone through a lot of shit, but you're still here. And things are not, things are fairly good. We got some stuff happening, but things are, blessed, quite honestly. So have some faith. Like, sometimes I get upset with myself at the lack of faith that I have. Like, why are you even doubting this? Like, you talked about, stuck in the mud. I wrecked a car. I wound up hitting this side, that side, through a ditch, into the woods, and like, how are you going to get out of that? And it was a car that my mom just bought that day, and I was like, oh God, I'm going to die. And all of a sudden, these 4 dudes like show up and come and pick up the car and carry it out and put it on the road. I mean, that's how blessed I am. Seriously, I don't know why I ever even questioned it. But I get in those moments of just, thoughts, where I'm listening to my thoughts and my fears, and I tell myself, no, I can't help, because I got to pay this, and I got to pay this, and I'm going to wind up homeless myself, and blah, blah, blah. You just want to throw up, and your mind goes on and on. And then you just have to tell all that to shut up, and you have to get to what's real, which is what is real in this moment. My son needs to know that I love him, and that he has somebody here for him. And you're, and the same with your situation, Samantha. So bravo to you for doing what's real, which is being there for friends and family, and even for those that we don't know. I've talked a lot of strangers down from suicide because I've been in that situation, and I can do that. I was given that gift of being that desperate and that hopeless. So now I can help others. We kind of get put in the position of being the heroes, whether we want to be the heroes or not. But it always comes to surrender, and we're not in control, Christina. You're absolutely right. And I can say that, as much as I believe in positive thinking and visualization, I believe in all that. I do. And I think it has merit and some, it does something, but when it comes down to it, when you've been in as many, in as many experiences as I've been in, where damn good and well somebody would change that situation if they had the ability to do so, you just have to come to the point of surrender and realize that you're not in control. And somehow we did agree to all of this, and we don't understand it, but it'll make sense later. And I do believe that, because even within my own life, things that make no sense now make sense. So I'm positive that once I'm out of this body, I'm going to go, oh shit, yeah, no wonder. Oh God. So we're past the hour. Everybody give your last thing and we'll hush and leave y'all for another week. Are we going to stay on this chapter, or are we going to the next one, or what's happening?
Well,
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know that.
Yeah, jump out.
I don't know that there's much more in this chapter. I feel like we've really kind of thoroughly hit it, but it was some weeks ago when I went through this chapter.
I don't know. I'm going to have to read it and listen to it. And then I'll probably come back and decide, I don't know, see what else there is. If we feel like we need to talk about it again, we will. And if we even want to touch on it and move on to the next one, we can do that on the next show too. But yeah, thank you for that, Catherine. And that's exactly right. I mean, we're not in control, and we have to have faith, because I mean, we've gone through some shit in our lives. We all have. We've all had our ups, we've had our downs, we've had our struggles, we've had things that have come up that we didn't know what the hell we were going to do and how we were going to make it work, and somehow we're sitting right here and we're okay. And but when shit happens, it's like all these little voices come up in your head and tell you why you can't and why you shouldn't and why it won't ever work, or why everything's going to fall apart if you do this, that, or the other. And yet we know.
And it hurts.
And it hurts
out right now. It hurt. That hurts. And that's
it hurts.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's so painful. And it's so, because you're arguing that argument inside of yourself, because you know what you want to do, the direction that you feel you must go, and all this mumbo jumbo tries to stop you, which is like, why? Why? But yet that's the human experience. That's what we're here to experience, and go through that, all of that. That's what it is. And when I don't know, maybe that's what the whole thing is. It's just to realize all that is just a bunch of mumbo jumbo, and that we can do what we have come here to do, and what we are truly inside. And I don't know, we don't have to listen to that mumbo jumbo, because we're going to be okay no matter what. Maybe we've overcome worse. Maybe we've overcome something that was hard, and this may be harder. I don't know. But we can do it, and we can get through it, and we're going to be okay on the other side of it. And it takes that faith to realize that we've done this before, we could do it again, and even if it's not the same situation, it still will be okay. And And I think that when we can realize just that is where that peace comes, and that's when the knowing comes, and that's when we can be the best version of ourselves, or we can do what we feel strongly about doing without worry of, it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. It doesn't matter what we think half the time, you know? I mean, I don't know. That's my final thoughts on today.
Yeah, I'll jump out really quick and just, I agree. I think we've all have been through our crap that we've been through and things, and some of it's been the most painful thing we've ever gone through, and yet we probably still have more that's going to be even more, or different types of pain. And it's almost like, how many times do we have to go through stuff to realize that, you know? The best way is to go back to, like Christina said, be in the moment, you know, realize that we're not really in control, but yet we can take steps to move towards wherever the divine God, for me, God is leading me towards, and get me to where I ultimately need to be, and learn to not listen to all the mumble jumble that my own head throws in there. And because those are some of the most powerful thoughts and feelings that I ever deal with. It's not anybody else's, it's my own. It's my own thoughts and feelings and fears and this and that, the other that comes up. And getting past my own self, I think, is harder than dealing with overcoming what other people tell me and other people's egos and stuff like that. And the ones I'm trying to correct and prove that I'm right and be that control freak and be in charge of. So with that, I think, you know, we all need to learn, like Catherine said, that ultimate surrender, and realizing that we can't, you know, we can do the best we can with what we've got at hand and move forward and go forward from there in a logical sense and in a practical sense with what facts and stuff we know for working towards the direction we need to go, and take some of the emotion out of it. And with that being said, that's easier said than done, to take the emotion out of it, because of the fact that we are the human beings that God created us to be, and we're caught up in that, and our humanness is what continually gets in the way.
I've been thinking a little bit about emotions, or I should say had a lot of thoughts about emotions this week, because having been hung with the label of bipolar, I'm trying to dissociate myself a little bit from feeling bipolar while experiencing the episodes that I feared would come upon me, as they seem to do about every 10 years, and realizing that the mania that came upon me this time was brought about by a medication change to be sure and take care of my kidneys. And my fear has been, okay, now comes the time of depression. And this week I have experienced lowered feelings, which is what I would prefer to call that, more in the midday. And I have such anxiousness to not give in. And so I've been thinking about and learning about, how important it is to feel our feelings, to allow ourselves to know, first of all, what it is that we feel, identify what we feel our feelings, and then congratulate ourselves, move on. And the individual who speaks that so loudly to me is reminding us that emotion is energy in motion. We are energy, and our emotions are meant to help us flow our energy. We want to have not stuckness, and that's ego in my mind is a big block. It's just a big block of stuck. I'm standing here, legs spread. I'm the big kahuna here, and now I'm stuck. And I'm not sure where to get off of that. But I want to say one other thing. I'm not sure what you're saying exactly, Catherine. I get such a wonderful message, but I've had this on my mind too. The term namaste stands for bowing to the light and love in others. And when you put your hands in that prayer stance after I say something, I feel like you've bowed to the love and the light, and that no matter where I'm at on the emotional scale, I still have love and light to bring, and I'm so grateful, and I'm so thankful for the realness of every single person on this. That's the main thing I want to share.
You do have so much love and light inside of you, Karen, and we see it every time you come on here. And we love you so much, and we're glad that you're here. I'm glad that you are all here, because I learn so much from you every time that we get on here, and you help me see things in a deeper way that I would not otherwise be able to see. Excuse me. It's been a great chat today, guys, and I thank you so much. Did everybody share what they wanted to share today? Are we ready to wrap up?
I'm going to throw in one last thing here.
Okay. Uh-huh.
We'll just shoot it up to another level. I'm going to copy something into the chat here so that I can read it. Hopefully it shows up. So one of the things that ego does, and basically, I see our president, that his name should be ego. So we have ego, but he's not the only one. Like all these leaders of all these countries that are running everything, they're all like egos. And we've talked, we share openly about these battles that we have within ourselves. And for those of us that really, want a more peaceful world, when I hear, I don't watch the news much, but I do get, news updates and things, and it just breaks my heart, the war situations that we have going on. And yet I still battle within myself every day, So until I can resolve the conflicts within myself, I really can't expect these egos out there to resolve theirs, So we really do need to work on our own personal conflicts. And this came out of a book that I'm reading right now, and it says, it seems obvious that a civilization would not be able to reach the cosmos and the folding of space-time dimensions if it cannot resolve its conflicts on a planetary level. The expansion of consciousness required for such a leap may be dependent upon the unified whole. If the whole is not integrated and balanced, attempts may be fruitless. Humanity may be experiencing this limitation now with so many unsuccessful space launch attempts as well as space program. Now, this was written a while ago. Earth may just not be ready, but it was written a while ago, but it's still pertinent. That's why I put it up there. Like, I don't think we might be better off at launching rockets, but as far as, the battle, the people that are still being killed on the basis of religion and ego-driven things and power and all of these things, until we each work on ourselves. That's why this group is so important. And that's why, even though there's, just a handful of us here, we keep coming back because we keep working on ourselves, because we understand it starts at home, guys. Like, you have to recognize those emotions. If those emotions are causing pain, it's probably because, one, you're lying to yourself or you're on the wrong track. Like, so pay attention. If you're hurting, there's a reason you're hurting. Learn how to resolve the conflicts within ourselves. And then hopefully, you know, as more and more of us do, you know, it's kind of like the 100 monkey syndrome. Y'all heard that. I think eventually when enough people understand how to resolve conflicts effectively, you know, then perhaps we can do it as a planet and then as a galaxy and whatever else is out there, because there's a lot out there, you guys. So I just thought I'd throw that in there. I love you guys.
That's awesome. Yeah, you know, and one thing that keeps coming up for me in terms of that, you know, resolving conflict is that, you know, there really isn't any conflict. It's just inside of ourselves. It's all an illusion because of all this mumbo jumbo that we tell ourselves. And once we realize it's just all a bunch of mumbo jumbo, there is no conflict. I mean, there isn't. And so anyway, that's my final thought on that. Guys, we've had a great talk today, and for those of you who are watching, we'd love to have you join us and hear what you have to say on these topics, because I know you have something amazing to share with us. So jump over to mindsetmasterycollective.com. That's going to take you directly over into our Facebook group where you can follow along, you can post, you can find the link to join us so that you can participate with us each week. We get together every Saturday morning. Well, okay, I say every, but that's kind of like most Saturday mornings we get together. We've been doing this for 4 years, so occasionally we don't make it for one reason or another, but mostly every Saturday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific, you can find us getting ready to jump on. About 9:45 Eastern, you'll find a link inside of our Facebook group where you can jump in, and we just join on Zoom meetings. So with that, guys, have a great, awesome, amazing weekend, and we'll see you next time on the Saturday Morning Mastermind. Bye for now.